Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back. My name is Caleb, and I'm an advocate here with Galt Advocacy. And today, we're talking about WPCS. And so this is a live stream, and so if you're not here at 12 o'clock on Friday, the 17th of January, then you have found our page and you've stumbled upon an older one, and that's great. I'm so glad that you're here. But like always, before we really jump into the topic, I'll give it a few minutes for some people to log on and find this stream so that if they have questions or they want to follow along live, they can. So like I said, my name's Caleb. I'm an advocate with Galt Advocacy. And if you're new here, we do this every single Friday at 12 o'clock in English. And then, of course, every single Friday at 1 o'clock in Spanish. And we've kind of bounced around on 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. in Spanish. But if you speak Spanish and you want to watch this information in Spanish, you can follow our Galt Advocacy en Español, and then go to our page at 1 o'clock every Friday and watch this information in Spanish. So we have a few people who are logging in now. So hello to those of you who are just now tuning in. Feel free to say hello. Let me know who you are, where you're from. If you've got questions, throw them my way. I'd love to try and entertain as many questions as I possibly know and can't answer. But today we're talking about WPCS. So we get a lot of questions and a lot of people who write to us asking to share information about this and what it is, how it works. And so we're going to share some of the basics of kind of some ins and outs of, where the program comes from and how do you apply for it and what does it even do, right? So Daisy, hello to you. Thanks for the comment. And like I said, if you have questions or you want to share information about what's going on with you, you are most certainly encouraged to do so. And so if you've got things going on with IHSS or regional center or the school, IEP support, we could talk about that today as well. But Daisy, hello. Let me know how you're doing, Daisy. Let me know if you've got any specific questions about WPCS or any of these other programs that we normally talk about here on Friday. We've got a few people on right now, so if you're here and you want to take a moment to share the video or tag a support group to maybe join us in the stream, you most certainly can. The more people here, the better. That way we can communicate with each other in the comments, and I can focus on maybe certain areas that more of you are interested in learning about, and I can try and share that information. So, all right, so we got a group of people now. So I'll go ahead and just jump into our topic, okay? So again, today is WPCS. And so this is the waiver of personal care services. And so if you've had IHSS for a long time, you're a client of your child, your daughter is a client of the regional center, you probably have heard of this program. And if you haven't, then I'm going to share a little bit about it first. So it is another program that is similar to something like IHSS. And I'm sorry, before I go on, let me know how the connection is, everybody. I am connected to the Wi-Fi here, which I guess can be a little funky. This is my first time doing it in this room, which is upstairs, and so I don't know how the connection is for these live streams. And if the microphone is working okay, I see the red dot, so it looks like we're okay. But in the comment section, feel free to let me know if the microphone's not working well or if the connection is bad, and I will try and fix it. All right, so WPCS is the waiver of personal care services. And so it is something that sort of goes in addition to your IHSS. So in order for you to get this program, which basically it's hours, just like IHSS, where you can be paid for the additional services that you're doing. And so the services that you get paid through the WPCS program are supposed to be things that are not necessarily covered under what you're getting from IHSS. And so it is going to be more on the, it says personal care services, but it goes deeper than that because it can be for medical stuff as well. So let me know if you have questions on that. So the key differences for WPCS and IHSS, let's go ahead and look at some of the key differences there. What is the difference? Sorry, I have an outline here, so I'm going to refer to this. That way we are all on the same page. Where did that go? That's okay. Okay, so again, we'll just kind of go back to somewhat of the differences, which I kind of covered. So it basically covers some of the tasks and the services that IHSS won't cover. But a very important point before you apply for WPCS, you have to know that you do have to be this person that's going to be qualifying for it. They do already have to be a recipient of IHSS. So it is a Medicaid program, and IHSS is a MediCal, but again, they're all kind of in the same umbrella. So as long as your client or your child or whoever this is a client of MediCal and they're receiving IHSS, then you can get the Waiver Care Personal Services Program. Okay. So you also have to be on the HCB waiver, which is, again, a MediCal Medicaid thing. So you have to make sure that that's in line first. Okay. And I haven't seen any other comments come through. Again, sometimes this can be finicky. So I'm going to log on here as well, just to make sure that I can see everybody and everything. Alrighty. Hold, please. All right, so yeah, I think so far the only comment we have is from Daisy, so that's okay. Okay, we've got a good chunk of people on now. So like I said before, let me know in the comment section if you've got questions or if there's any specific information you want to go over. Again, we're talking about WCPS today, or WPCS, but we could talk about other things as well if you have questions about that, okay? So some of the services that the WPCS waiver, Tracy, hello to you, welcome. And Daisy, you said, I'm new to this, so I'm not sure if my son additionally applies for this. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about if it's something that maybe your son could qualify for. So again, if your son has IHSS already, then you can entertain the possibility of the WPCS program. Jocelyn, you said, if hours go up in IHSS, will they still have MediCal? So great question. So this is also a very common thing where, MediCal is based on your income, right? And so when people see that, some people are getting, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month from IHSS every month, wouldn't that affect your MediCal? And the answer is no. So if it's money coming from MediCal, then it's not going to affect your MediCal eligibility. So you don't have to worry about that, but it's a great question. And so a common question there also too is, if I receive WPCS, will I lose my IHSS hours? And the answer is no. Receiving WPCS does not automatically mean you will lose your IHSS hours. You can often receive both, which sort of you kind of have to, right? And so with the possibility of combining the hours depending on specific exemptions and the needs of the recipient, it's important to check with your local agency to confirm your situation, right? So it is really important to probably talk to IHSS first. They usually have information about WPCS and they can share it with you as well. And if you can provide care for a client through both IHSS and WPCS, you may be able to combine hours under certain exemptions, allowing you to work up to the maximum number of combined hours per month, which it doesn't specify what that is. I can't remember if you can go beyond the IHSS cap, which is 283. So I'll have to look into that. Jackie, you said, for an appeal hearing, is it better to choose in person or on the phone? It depends. It depends. So as an advocate, we provide representation for people who are wanting to go in front of a judge and appeal for a decision. And we do all of our hearings by phone. A part of that is because we have to, but it also makes things a heck of a lot easier. So a phone conference call hearing with a judge typically is a lot less invasive. It's a lot more informal, and it's a little less intimidating. So I would always recommend phone, but again, if you'd prefer to go in person, you most certainly can. All right, so now we have a lot of comments rolling through. So I don't know if it was just my phone just acting up again. Sorry, everybody. Thank you, Jocelyn. Emily, my son has PS already and recently diagnosed with focal seizures. Should I mention it to my social worker on the reassessment? Do you get more hours for medication? So medications is a task within IHSS. But if you're a minor, then they don't really offer much, or really anything most of the time. So medication administration is what technically you can get paid for as a task, but they typically reserve that for adults. Paul, how does receiving WPCS impact regional center services like respite? So it shouldn't. So respite services or getting paid diapering from regional center, getting personal care assistance with regional center, having IHSS, getting the WPCS approved, all of these things should sort of kind of mold together. Now, again, there are times where these things kind of fall on top of each other. They just can't overlap one another, if that makes sense, right? So with respite, for example, you can't claim IHSS hours at the same time that the respite worker is providing their care, right? And so same goes for WCPS in a sense. And so it all can work together. You just have to make sure that you're sort of stacking them up on top of each other or coordinating them all together where they're not overlapping. Hello, Alyssa. Tracy, if you have maximum hours from IHSS and your son is 21 years old, would I apply for this program? Yes, you most certainly can. So again, I can't recall. I believe I've heard people claiming the WPCS program hours in addition to the IHSS maximums, but let's just look that up real quick. Because I didn't see that in the chart here, and I might have just missed it. But yes, if you are receiving maximum amount of hours allowed with IHSS, you can still be eligible to receive the personal care waiver services. So, but the combined hours between the two services will be capped depending on the recipients you care for. So typically a provider caring for one recipient can work up to 70 hours per week combined with IHSS, and while a provider for multiple recipients can work up to 66 hours per week. Okay. So technically, the answer will be no. If you already are capped out with IHSS, odds are they're not really going to allow you to claim more with the WCPS. But again, that's just information that I'm gathering right now. I've heard different things about that, but I don't have the exact answer for you today. Alyssa, can you get protective supervision as well as paramedical? Yes, you can. You can have both of those categories approved for. Susan, with the exemption, you can get 360. It's very hard to get. Yeah, so I think that's what it was talking about, is where if you can get the exemption approved, then theoretically you can claim, more WPCS. But again, the exemption is for multiple IHSS recipients in the home, not for just one person who has more than the maximum, if that makes sense. Daisy, is this something we can bring up when our social worker does their home visit? Yeah. So I attend a lot of home visits with a lot of the clients that I work with, and the program WPCS is brought up by a lot of social workers. And so they do have some training on it because it's a MediCal Medicaid program. So the social worker should have some info for you if you wanted to bring it up to them. And if they don't, then that's probably just them not having the training on it. But most social workers that I've worked with do have some experience with it. Constance, what is WPCS? So WPCS is a program that can go in addition to your IHSS hours. So it's a program that offers kind of the same type of thing where you get paid by the hour to care for this person's needs, but the tasks and services that they can cover typically go beyond what IHSS is paying you for. So it's a great little supplement if you can qualify for it. Sherry, hopefully there's more awareness soon about how they can be waiver programs conflicts like regional center services. So what do you mean by conflict, Sherry? I'm not familiar with what you're referring to. Susan, won't affect respite, but it can affect personal assistant hours. Yeah, so again, any of this can affect services if they are overlapping or if the other service is providing that service already, or if that other service is providing that task already, right? So again, all of these programs that are hourly based, they're both hourly based and availability based. So we've talked in the past before about how you can get more respite service hours or more personal assistant hours. The only way you can get those things increased is if you have the availability and room in your schedule for it, plus the need, right? So WPCS is going to be similar in that way. Daisy, does it affect if you are a part of the self-determination program? Not that I'm aware of. I haven't read anything that says that if you're on the self-determination program that this affects anything, because WPCS isn't necessarily for regional center clients. It's for anybody who has IHSS. Brenda, you shared to all IHSS groups. Awesome. Thanks, Brenda. Sherry, you need an exception. So again, I'm still not exactly sure what you're referring to. Are you referring to like the exemption with IHSS? Because there are, again, exemptions with WPCS and IHSS that you do have to have, like what we've been talking about. But Adrian, you said the max is for the recipient, not for the provider. Good question. So there's sort of two maximums. So yes, the maximum amount of hours that any recipient can claim is 283 hours with IHSS. And what I'm gathering is it's tough to go beyond that with the addition of WPCS. And as a provider for both, you can get more with an exemption. So it's a little complicated, but you can claim more than the maximum of 283 hours per month. You can claim up to 90 hours per month with IHSS, but again, it involves multiple recipients, not just one recipient. If you have one recipient, then you will be capped as both the recipient and the provider. And if you have multiple recipients with a lot of need and a lot of hours from IHSS and WPCS, then you can claim up to 360 hours per month with the exemption. Desiree, what age usually qualifies for WPCS? So I don't believe there's an age restriction. To my understanding, it's similar to IHSS, where there is no specific age limit. So that was what I thought. So you can apply for WPCS at any age as long as that need is there. Mary Joy, my son is 10 and receiving protective supervision. Is there an age range to apply for the WPCS? No, there is not an age range. Adrian, can the lower IHSS if I have WPCS? No. So they would not be lowering your IHSS hours if you get approved for the WPCS program. Okay, so here's a question of the WCPS hours that you can claim. If a WPCS provider works for one participant, the maximum number of hours the provider can claim in one work week is 70 hours per week, which is what we talked about. Of the WPCS and IHSS combined. Okay, there it is. So if you want to have both, you can only work up to 70 hours per week, which if we're doing the math, that's 140 times that by 2, that's, what is that, 280? So yeah, you're right at the maximum. So it's the same. So if you are capped at 283 with IHSS, you're probably not going to be able to get much of the WPCS. But if you're not capped, then there is room to grow there. So that's good. If a WPCS provider works for 2 or more participants, the maximum number of hours they can claim in a work week is 66 hours of WPCS and IHSS combined. There are exemptions to this rule. Exemption requirements are discussed on here in this outline here. The WPCS provider can work up to a maximum of 12 hours per day for both the WPCS and IHSS combined. And Brenda, you wrote 70 hours and 45 minutes per week, and that is exactly correct. Yes, I was being lazy and I said 70, but there is an extra 45 minutes there per week. Thanks, Brenda. But if you have both, you can claim up to a daily maximum of 12 hours per day. Pretty cool. Okay, so who authorizes the WCPS hours for the participant? Each waiver participant is assigned to either a DHCS or a waiver agency registered nurse, an RN, depending on what county the recipient resides in. The assigned nurse or case manager will evaluate the waiver participant as needed to determine if WPCS is appropriate for their care needs. So that's pretty cool. You'll get like an actual real expert. Whereas with IHSS, you get social workers, which we won't dissect too much today. But I think that's a very, very cool aspect of this. A participant will not be authorized to receive more than 24 hours a day of direct care and or protective supervision, regardless of the funding source. Okay. Daisy, you said this is a bit off topic, but we received an email regarding SOC 2298. Can you tell me more about this? I can. So that is a tax form. And yes, it seems as though a lot of people received an email about some updates and changes to taxes. From what I've gathered, again, it's nothing you have to be worried about or that it's going to affect you in any way. It's more about just how you report your taxes. So if you receive a W-2 from IHSS, you do have to report that to the IRS still, okay? But again, if you're claiming this income exempt from taxes, meaning you are a live-in provider, then you can fill out the 2298 form to continue receiving tax-exempt income. That's what that form is used for. Adrian, what is the max hour per week for WPCS for a provider to claim? So again, it would be 70 hours per week, 70 hours and 45 minutes per week. All right, so one thing that I wanted to mention earlier that I saw was the eligibility for this. So I wanted to cover a couple of things here. So once again, you have to be in the HCBA waiver, which again is a Medi-Cal Medicaid waiver. And then you have to be receiving IHSS services already. We've covered that. And then you also have to have the doctor's order for specifics that they require the WPCS in order for them to remain safely in their home. So basically like a note or documentation from the doctor, similar to when you do this for IHSS, saying that they would benefit from this program and they have needs for it. So that is also something you have to be aware about. So this is something that the primary care physician would have to sign off on. Daisy, okay, so if we're not receiving a W-2, no need to claim taxes. Okay, so I am not a tax expert and none of us here at Galt Advocacy are. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should do other than talk to a tax expert. So when you file your taxes, like if you do your own taxes online, like at TurboTax or whatever, on the irs.gov website, usually it asks you if you are receiving IHSS. And so when you follow those prompts, it'll tell you whether or not you need to upload a W-2. And so if you do not file your taxes online and you go to somebody, you have a tax expert, then I would recommend asking them. If you never receive a W-2 from IHSS, then odds are you're probably not going to be able to provide it, right? But to my understanding, most people are now going to be receiving W-2s. Most people have been, but a lot of people haven't had them in the past. But I do believe they're heading in that direction. So if you do receive it, it is something you have to bring up when you file your taxes. But it won't affect your taxes overall. So if you're a live-in provider, so that you wouldn't have to worry about. All right, so who is eligible to be a WPCS provider? That's important, right? So to qualify to become a provider, you first have to complete the IHSS provider enrollment. So you do have to already be considered an IHSS provider before you can become a WPCS provider. And you have to be 18 years or older. So this would be different than IHSS. So an IHSS provider can be 16 years or older with some limitations. But for WPCS, you do have to be 18 years or older. So you have to complete the IHSS provider enrollment process. They are not required to be an active IHSS provider, meaning to claim hours with IHSS, but they do have to be established as an IHSS provider already. So if an individual meets all of the WPCS provider requirements, then they can call ISCD WPCS unit for more information. And so that number we can drop below and pin in the comments. Teresa, if you want to look through and grab that phone number there with the state for WPCS, please drop that below. That'd be great if you have a minute to do that. Teresa also answered the tax question. This year you will be receiving a W-2 and you will need to file. Yeah, so kind of in line with what I was saying. Again, I'm just not a tax expert, so I can't really tell you what to do. But to our understanding, you will have to, again, show a W-2 if you receive it, which you should, to your tax expert, or at least when you file, it has to show up. All right, what are alternate provider options? So if you don't want to be a provider for WPCS, which you may not be, in addition to individual providers, WPCS participants have an option to receive case management services through an approved agency provider. Case management services may be facilitated by one of the following: waiver agency, personal care agency, PCA, home health agency, HHA, individual nurse provider, INP, professional corporation, or congregate living health facility, CLHF. And for more information about that, you'll have to follow a link that we can also try and send to you as well. And if we have any WPCS experts or people who have had it for a while, feel free to share your 2 cents. If it's something if you have in your home and you know something about it, please let us know. We'd love to chat with you and learn from you too. This is not a program I specialize in or that I'm an expert in, but it is something that we do deal with a lot, that we talk with a lot of families who want this. So it seems as though that you do electronic timesheets similar to IHSS. So after the provider has met the eligibility requirements for enrollment, the provider will be added to the WPCS payroll system. Initial timesheets will be issued electronically and will be available on the online IHSS e-portal. Interesting. Okay, so the WPCS timesheets, I guess you can access from the same portal as you do with your IHSS hours. So that's pretty cool. That should make things a lot, that should simplify it for you, which is great. When are you submitting your timesheets for payment? The WPCS timesheet should be submitted by the provider at the end of each work period. Timesheets submitted prior to the end of the work period will be held. You want to submit your timesheets as soon as possible after the work week has been completed. So don't hold on to them. Submit them as quickly as you can. But you can also submit timesheets over the phone as well if that's easier for you. Thank you so much, everybody, for the questions and tuning in here. Again, if you have a moment to share the video, give it a like. That's also really helpful, not just for us, but for other people to learn about this information. Daisy, you said, okay, so if I fill out the form SOC 2298, it means oh, come on. Sorry. I have a notification there. Okay. It means I want to exclude wages I'm receiving. So it means that you are acknowledging that you are, so signing that form, you are acknowledging that you are a live-in provider and that you would like to be exempt of taxes. So you can opt into paying taxes. You don't have to be tax exempt as a live-in provider, but that's what that form would mean. It would mean that you would not be getting taxes removed from your time card. Okay, so pay rate for WPCS is going to be the same as your IHSS in your county. So the provider hourly pay rate is the same as the county IHSS hourly pay rate. These rates may differ depending on the county that the provider works in. Okay, so if you live in San Bernardino County and your pay rate with IHSS is $18.65 per hour, then you know that the WPCS will pay you the same. Overtime hourly pay rate is 1.5 times. So there is overtime pay with WPCS if it is calculated to include that. And so overtime would be anything that's more than a 40-hour work week. So if you are already receiving 250 hours of IHSS and you get an additional 30 hours of WPCS, I think we can expect those hours to be overtime, which is pretty cool. Daisy, can we share the link that we're getting this? Yes. So Teresa can share with you this information when we're finished. Absolutely. So types of services included in the WPCS, to kind of go over that real quickly. We kind of briefly went over it, but I'm going to go into it a little bit more in detail. So personal care services, that's going to include things like bathing, dressing, grooming, eating, toileting, assistance with mobility and transferring, like getting out of bed and stuff like that. So it can pay for those things in addition to what you're getting from IHSS. And then the ADLs, activities of daily living, instrumental, which would be meal preparation, housekeeping, laundry, shopping, medication reminders, transportation, and assistance with finances. That one's pretty cool. Additional support would be help with basic healthcare needs, such as monitoring the healthcare conditions. And so those are some of the things, again, kind of simplified as to what the WPCS is paying you for. Alyssa, is WOE something that recipients have to apply for? Oh, the WPCS. Yes, so it is something you have to apply for. So you have to kind of go through the same, it's a similar route to IHSS. It is an application process. So to kind of talk about how you do that, let me pull this thing up here. Excuse me. Okay, so real quick before I go into that next question, so there is a phone number you can call to basically apply, to my understanding. So you can contact public authority, which is your IHSS office. So you can contact your local public authority and you can apply over the phone. All right. Paul, you said, I was told if I get the HCBA waiver, then the DD waiver would have to be dropped. My concern is that wouldn't that impact my RC services? So again, it will only impact your regional center services if the services are overlapping one another. So no, getting WPCS in some ways should not affect it. It can. So this DD waiver that you're receiving, I cannot remember what that stands for, DD waiver. That is your developmental disability waiver, HCBS waiver. So I don't think it should affect those things, the DD waiver. I think you'd be okay. Oh, thank you, Teresa, for adding that link. Alyssa, if you're gonna already have been supervising, and he would contact your sister. I'm not too sure what you're referring to, Alyssa. Sorry. Daisy, what is the number? So we can drop that below. I think Joanna Lee has been attaching some of the numbers here you can call as well. So thank you, Joanna Lee. Alyssa, you said, sorry, Siri always changing my words on here. If your child already has protective supervision, is it something you would contact your social worker for? Yeah, so again, if you have IHSS and you have a social worker who you are comfortable speaking to, then yes, you most certainly can reach out to your social worker. They should have information on this WPCS program. Absolutely. And you have to contact public authority anyway, which is the IHSS office. Daisy, the DD waiver, is that something I can apply for? So again, I'm not familiar with this specific DD waiver. It's a short name for MediCal. So the DD waiver is the HCBS waiver. It's the same thing. So yes, you have to apply for that. What I'm gathering is it's the same thing. The DD is is an abbreviation. So technically it's the HCBS-DD waiver. And it's a program that helps people with developmental disabilities who live in their homes and in their communities. So if you have full scope MediCal and if you have a diagnosis of a disability, developmental disability, then you can get the DD waiver or the HCBS waiver. Joanna Lee, sometimes the IHSS workers don't know about the waiver. Yeah, so social workers, again, they're limited, but they're supposed to know. So if you bring it to them and they're unfamiliar with this, then you can ask them to get familiar with it because it's their job, right? You can also coordinate with your regional center. Most of regional center coordinators, they're supposed to be knowledgeable about these things. And so if you want to contact those people directly, you most certainly can. But again, in order to get this program or these waivers, some are provided through regional center, and then some would be provided directly from MediCal, and then you can also just call public authority, which would be your local IHSS office, to get that information as well. Melissa, how you added, if you're comfortable talking to your worker. Yeah, well, not all social workers are the same, right? I know that we deal with a lot of different varieties of social workers, friendly and non-friendly. Joanna Lee, required to have IHSS to apply for the waiver? Yes. So again, you do have to be an IHSS recipient in order to qualify for the waiver and to qualify for this particular waiver so that you can get WPCS. Brittany, you said they need to help you figure it out. I would agree. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they need to. I agree. All right, so how are we doing, everybody? Hopefully we're learning a little bit here. And again, if you already have WPCS, please share your experience. We'd love to hear what you have done with this program, if it's been helpful for you, so that you can maybe help some of the people here in the comment section that are wanting to learn more about it. Daisy, we apply through the public authority. Yes, you can call public authority, your local IHSS office, and you can apply over the phone. So Teresa, she said HCBS-DD waiver. The developmental disabilities DD waiver, also known as the HCBS program waiver. Oh my gosh, sorry, lost the comment here. Is the program that helps people develop disabilities. So this is exactly what I was reading just a moment ago. And so, Paul, you wouldn't have to worry about it affecting it because that is the same waiver. So you'd be okay. Adrian, they told me I can only have one waiver. So again, the HCBS is the same thing as the DD waiver. So it would be one and the same. Thank you, Brittany. I'm glad. Adrian, I had to give up the waiver from the regional center. They will give me one once the MediCal renewal will come. Okay. Again, I'm not too sure exactly which waiver they forced you to give up in turn of, new services, but you're welcome to share what exactly happened. I'm curious. Joanna Lee, it's great to share all the benefits the recipients can have the option to choose for their well-being. I agree. I'm so thankful that here in California, there's a lot of great resources and benefits that are available. A lot of states don't have what we have here in California. We talk a lot about IHSS, and every state has kind of a similar program to IHSS, and some states even call it IHSS, but the regulations are all so different. They're all very, very different. New York, I believe, has the most similar to what we have here in California, but even that one is different. It's not even called IHSS. It's called something else. I can't even remember what it's called. It's like a really long abbreviation. IHSS is easy because it's four letters, but in New York, it's I think like 6 or 7 letters, and I have a terrible memory. Daisy, going back to the SOC 2298, I don't have to turn the form in if I'm not paying taxes. So again, if you are not paying taxes, then odds are, I'm sorry, this is actually a different question from what you asked earlier. Forgive me, let me rephrase this. So I would consult with your tax expert. I would consult with IHSS if they feel like they need that form. So if you've already opted out of paying taxes, and that form, to my understanding, is not needed. But again, I could be wrong. Brittany, I wish other states had the benefits. It's sad. Yeah, it's kind of a pros and cons, right? So, with California here, you get amazing support comparatively to other states, but the school system, the school districts here in California, there's arguments to say we are not top dog when it comes to school, especially for the special needs community. Alyssa, Washington State has something very similar. Yes, so Washington, Arizona, Oregon, all have IHSS, and I think they call it IHSS, but there are some restrictions, I believe, with Washington, where if I recall, I haven't researched it in a really long time, but I don't believe Washington allows parent-paid providers. I think if the child is under 18, it has to be somebody else, but I could be wrong on that, but I think I remember reading that. Maricel, my husband is the provider of my daughter. Do I need to file taxes? So again, as a household, yes, if you're legally married to your husband, you would jointly file, right? So yes, one of you would have to provide the IRS with the IHSS information and the income that you're receiving. But again, consult with a tax expert. You got to call somebody. It's tax season coming up, everybody. So I would start calling around and get that situated. Again, forgive me, I am not a tax expert, so I can't really talk on that too much. I don't want to give tax advice because I am not authorized to do so. I don't have that experience or certifications, if you will. Great questions, everybody. I'm glad we finally got to discuss this topic too, because we've been pushing this one off for a long time, but it is such a big topic. And so many people want to learn more about it. And hopefully we can learn more about it too through the more research that we do and through your experiences. If you share your experiences with it really helps us try and understand it as well. Okay, so Teresa is clarifying the new IHSS or the new IRS change with IHSS. So let's talk about that real quick. So the new IRS change, they will send you a W-2 and you have to file a tax form, but your IHSS income is listed as non-taxable income. You can find out more about this on our page, and you should consult your tax expert on how to do that. Excuse me, gonna sneeze. Thank you, Teresa. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Sorry, everybody. Thank you, Maricel. Daisy, you just wanted to follow how my son is doing. He's doing good follow up, I think you were saying. He's doing good. We're looking for a program through the Department of Rehab. Great. So let us know how that's going for you, Daisy. We have a few more minutes, everybody, before I let you go. For those of you who are not familiar with the Department of Rehabilitation, it's a great little resource, to my understanding, for like work-related stuff. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've read about that. But Daisy, if you feel comfortable sharing a little bit before we head out of here about your experience with the Department of Rehabilitation, let us know. And I'm so glad to hear that your son is doing good. I hope he continues to do great. And if you guys need any help in any way, let us know. Love to see how we can support you guys. So I'm kind of going through the notes again to see if there's much that I missed that we can cover. I kind of did like a really big basic overview of everything. So I'm sorry it's not as in-depth as maybe it could be. We could always do like a part 2 of this as well. Okay, so how to apply for the waiver personal care services. So there's a 5-step process here. I'm just going to read it out to everybody to see if it's any different than what we've already discussed. So you have to contact Medicaid or the state waiver office. Reach out to your state's Medicaid office to inquire about available waiver programs. So once again, that is like public authority. You can get that information from there. Step 2 is to complete an application. So you have to provide information about this person's medical condition, your income, and your functional needs. 3, eligibility review and assessment. So again, similar to IHSS, I know assessment is a word that kind of gets us, right? An evaluation will determine the eligibility and services of this person. And then step 4 is develop a care plan. So you'll have to work with a case manager or a care coordinator to develop an individualized care plan for this person. So that'll help with establishing who will be the provider, who's going to be claiming the hours, and when they're going to do that. And then step 5, beginning to receive the services. Once you are approved, the services will begin according to the care plan. So it's as simple as that, everybody. It's 5 steps. That's simple. These programs can be so confusing. I really wish it was different, but yeah, hopefully if you want this program and you want to apply for it, hopefully you don't run into a lot of the hiccups and speed bumps that a lot of people do. Okay, so I think that's a good chunk of what this program is, how it works. Hopefully we've all learned a little bit of something. I haven't seen a new comment in a couple of minutes, so I think we can just go ahead and wrap it up. We're right at about the 45-minute mark. So thank you everybody so much for tuning in. Like always, we do this every Friday. And so if you're brand new here and you saw some value in this topic today, stick around, stay tuned. In the coming weeks, we have some really cool topics that we're going to be sharing with you guys on our live streams here every Friday. And again, if you speak Spanish or you know somebody that might benefit from this information, and they only speak Spanish, Nicole does go live at 1 o'clock and talks about the same stuff. And so we have some really great topics coming here in the near future. And so give our page a follow, give it a like, watch some of our old streams that we save. We save all of our streams here on Facebook. And soon we're going to try, and sorry, Teresa, I know I should have tested out our streaming platform today. We're going to try and start streaming to other platforms like YouTube as well. So stay tuned. We're going to be playing around with that a lot in the coming weeks. And so, yeah, if you have topics or things you want us to discuss, please feel free to let us know here in the comment section, or you can direct message us. We want to know what it is that the families here in California, the special needs world, are looking to talk about. These are the things that we want to share. And so if you have anything in particular, it doesn't matter what the topic is, let us know. We'd love to see if it's something we can kind of break down for you. But with that said, thank you everybody once again for tuning in, sticking around. Before you go, give the video a like or a share if you feel like it. That's always really helpful. And I hope you all have a wonderful Friday. I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye everybody.